Hello, this is Wendy, and if you're watching this video, thank you for liking my blog, Pieces of My Heart. I'd like to discuss and have a chat about Daniel's faith. And I'm going to be reading references from Daniel chapter 6, which references the account of where he was plotted against in order to be killed. And in this land, there was a reigning king at the time named King Darius. And he had set up satraps throughout the whole realm. He had selected 120 satraps. And I just specifically wanted to know what a satrap was. I knew it was a type of leader, so I looked it up. A governor of a province in ancient Persia is what a satrap was. And he had set up strategically 120 over the realm. And then in verse 3 of chapter 6, it states, Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. So at this point, the satraps knew how highly King Darius esteemed Daniel, and they were envious and set out to plot against him in order to get him discredited. But they could not discredit him, and it says in verse 4, they could find no charge or fault because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him. So then at this point, they decided to attack his faith, which is happening to Christians now and all through time. It has, where Christians have been attacked for their faith and have been killed or arrested or beaten, or something bad has happened to them because of their faith. So they were devious and they were deceptive, and they schemed and they convinced King Darius to send out a decree saying that if anyone in the kingdom prayed or petitioned anyone within 30 days other than the king, that they would be thrown into the den of lions. And this decree was set up by the law of the Medes and Persians, which was irrevocable and could not be altered once it was decreed. So the king agreed to this and issued the decree, and immediately Daniel responds not with fear, but he responds with his faith. His relationship with God was so strong that he continued in his prayers petitioning God rather than the king, which is what was his common practice. And he went into his chamber with his windows open, and he prayed on his knees as he did 3 times a day immediately after this decree was set out. And the satraps jumped on this opportunity and went straight to the king and said, Did you not just issue this decree? And now look at Daniel, your servant has been petitioning God. So immediately when someone who is a godly Christian is promoted to a position of excellence and prominence, accusers are going to show up. And that's what happened. He was an excellent man. He served God without fault, and he was being positioned in a place of prominence, and then the accusers show up. And Daniel's response was prayer. And the king became displeased with himself and sought to deliver him all day and night. And he had spent the night fasting. He was trying to think of a way to not harm Daniel, but he could not revoke this decree. So he had him ordered to be thrown into the den of lions, and he fasted all night. And then the king went and spoke to him and said, "Your God will deliver you to whom you serve continually." So the next morning he went out and he asked if God had delivered him, and he yelled down into the den, and Daniel said to the king, "O king, live forever." He was even honoring the king after he had been thrown in. And he said, "My God sent his angel and shut the lion's mouth, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you." And there's something about a lion that is very, I mean, you think about why they chose a lion, and if you read Proverbs 30, verse 30, which is an additional reference I'd like to speak, a lion which is the strongest among beasts, and turneth not away from any. New King James Version says, a lion which is mighty among beasts, and does not turn away from any. So it was a miracle from God that Daniel was delivered from the lion. And it was supernatural. It was the angel of the Lord that closed the mouth of the lion, or he would have been devoured. And I wanted to read to you why, because the scripture very specifically says why he was delivered. In verse 23, so Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he believed in his God. So it was his faith that delivered him from the mouth of the lion and from the mouth of the accusers. He was delivered not only from the mouth of the lion, but he was delivered from the mouth of the accusers. And this is a great example for us to cling on to when we have accusers coming against us. Not only are they delivered from the harm that the accusers bring forth, but they're delivered from the accusers themselves. And look what happened to the accusers because of his faith in God. God delivered him because of his faith, because of his courage, because of his boldness. Now the king was exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take up Daniel out of the den, which we read. Okay, and then if we go on down to verse 24, and the king gave the command, and this was immediately after Daniel was brought out. The king gave the command, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives, and the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. Then King Darius wrote, to all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. And there's another story in Persia that happened as well, other than just to Daniel, in which the same thing happened. Someone was falsely accused, and because of their faith, the accuser was the one that was destroyed. And that was when Haman, if you read about the account of Esther, Haman was destroyed because of his accusations towards Mordecai. And the gallows he set up for Mordecai, he was hanged on himself by the king. So Take courage in this, that God honors the faith of his children. And because of Daniel's faith, he was delivered from the mouth of the lion and from the accusers. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed night. It's all about Jesus.